Good morning, everybody. Mr. Vars here with your daily week of library. Miss Lauren's not with us today. Hopefully, she'll be back next week to help us out with some more library stuff. For today, though, I'm outside, and it's chilly on a Wednesday morning, but it's Earth Day, and it's also National Poetry Month. In honor of that, I thought today we'd take some time. We would look at my favorite poetry site and also check out how to find poetry books both on Hoopla and Libby. And I'm going to do a quick read aloud of a book that I discovered in researching for this video that I didn't know existed. So today I'm putting down, and for the next few days, putting down my big, thick fantasy fiction book, and I'm going instead to things like Love That Dog, which love this book, and the sequel, Hate That Cat, but still love that cat. And then also my favorite collection of poetry stories, Poetry by Heart. Okay, so let's dig right in. Okay, third graders, we're going to start right in. The first thing we're going to look at today is my favorite poetry site, which is Jack Prelutsky. So we're going to go right into our search bar here. So right in the middle here, my Google page, I'm going to start typing Jack, and look at that, it starts coming up right away, but I'm going to keep typing his name, Jack Prelutsky, and we're going to just click on that. It's going to bring up a bunch of pictures of him, if you never knew what he looked like. Bunch of information. We're going to scroll down though. In the top result, Jack Prelutsky home. Be glad your nose is on your face. And that's something I'm always glad about. I click on that, and it brings up this very colorful site. A little bit of the information here is dated, so it's a little bit older, but there's still a lot of great things on here, including some of Jack's poems and music. So we can click on that, and it gives us a drop-down menu. And I'm just going to say, let's look at a selection of Jack's poems. So, A Centipede Was Thirsty, from I've Lost My Hippopotamus. I'm going to confess, the word hippopotamus is always very difficult for me to say. I don't know why. But you can scroll down and take some time to go ahead and read some of his poems that are here selected. They're all great. I love them. Let's see what else we've got here, though. There's also stuff by kids and fun things. Stuff by kids is great because there's actually drawings of Jack, drawings of his poems, drawings of animals, some great stuff, fun stuff that you could also do yourself. If you want to draw a picture and illustrate one of his poems, go right ahead. I would love to see what you came up with for Carpenter or Kitty Caught a Caterpillar. Let's go to fun things, though, which is down near the end here. Fun things. Jack's writing activities, Jack's puzzles and games. How about puzzles and games? Let's have some fun. So if you click on that, there's a bunch of things here that you can actually print out. Word circle puzzles, crossword puzzles. I love word ladders, where you start with one word and you change a letter and you try to get to the letter at the top or the bottom. Love it. So all just different kinds of things you can do, all by Jack Prelutsky, all centered around his poetry. Okay, so here we are in Hoopla. Let's go ahead and just give a quick reminder. Hoopla is in conjunction with the Belmont Public Library. Mine says Watertown Free Public Library because I live in Watertown. First thing you want to make sure is right in this top left-hand corner, underneath the time and the date, there's the word kids, and you can see the little check mark there. You always want to make sure that is checked, so you're only seeing books and materials that are appropriate for you. This happens to be my list of what I've checked out. Flora and Ulysses, which I've been doing a read aloud. I wanted to get in some old comic books. There's a Jack Prelutsky book, and then this I Love You Already, Jory John, which I've really loved a lot. But we're going to go down to search, down the bottom menu bar where it says video, music, books, and search. So we're going to go to search, and right here, trending searches: Mo Willems, Dragons Love Tacos, Pete the Cat Call of the Wild, all kinds of great stuff. Star Wars right at the end. But we're going to go into this search bar, and I'm just going to start typing the word poetry. And I'm not even going to select any of these. I'm just going to hit enter and do a search. And it's going to bring up a bunch of different things. And I can keep scrolling down and down. Limericks, Walt Whitman. Let's go to see if there's any filters. So filters is a way to go ahead and search for something in a more refined way. So for this particular thing, we're going to look for just ebooks. I don't want audiobooks. I don't want movies. I just want to read something myself. but you can do whatever you want. So ebooks, and that's it. Let's see what we come up with. So these are still all great poetry books. Emily Dickinson. We've got Walt Whitman, which I absolutely love. He's such a great. Oh, Robert Frost. Robert Frost is one of my favorite poets. So I'm actually going to do a quick borrow of this Robert Frost book. Yes, I want to borrow for 21 days. I'm going to borrow the title. It's downloading and ready to read. Let's go ahead and just take a quick look through this. Robert Frost wrote a lot about nature and the wilderness. It's just absolutely splendid. Poetry for kids. Look at that beautiful painting. Content. So we've got all of his works that are in this book. Right near the end on page 43, stopping by woods on snowy evening. I have to tell you, that's something I had to memorize when I was in 4th grade, I believe. And to this day, I still remember it. But let's just take a quick look through. Introduction. The pasture. Look at the beautiful illustrations and paintings along with his poetry. A late walk. So I think this just goes really well with the fact that today is Earth Day and National Poetry Month, that we can go ahead and combine a bunch of things and just kind of think more globally about our planet and how we should really cherish it. So feel free to borrow this and any of the other poetry books that you see in Hoopla. And now we'll take a quick look at finding poetry books on Libby. Keep in mind, last week we went through and we talked about using preferences to narrow your search. So we're just going to click on preferences. It says there's 2. Let's make sure they're the right ones. So let's look at our audience. So we're looking for books that are labeled as juvenile. So that's for a younger audience, which would be appropriate for your age level. And then also the availability, available now. As you remember, I'm someone who isn't patient and I want a book right now. So let's go ahead and we're going to keep those preferences and we're going to explore. So right on the same bar across from preferences, it says explore. We're going to just tap on that. This gives you a bunch of different sections. You can feel free to look at this anytime you like when you're looking for a book to read. We're going to say or look at what's available. So under this, we're going to look for books. Again, feel free to look at magazines and audiobooks if your library subscribes to them. Looking at what's available, there's going to be a lot of things here, but we want to focus on poetry. So at the very top, and where it says available books and what's available, there's some listings. And the very last thing it says, and more. We're going to click on that, and more. It brings up a scrollable box where you can go through, and we're going to go down, and we're going to find, of course, our theme for today is poetry. So under these selections, this is what's available now, and there's a bunch of things here. There's only about, I think, 22 books right now, and that'll change as people return them. We went through that last week on how to return things. The Book of Nonsense, Mother Goose, Flower Fables, Do Not Take Your Dragon to Dinner. Sometimes things will be classified as poetry, sometimes not, but that's okay. But feel free to check out some different poetry books from Libby. This also happens to be where I found the book Bilbo's Last Song, which is a poetry book that I'm actually going to read to you in just a few minutes. But I will say that this is based on a character from The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, which are some of my favorite books of all time, The Hobbit being my favorite book of all time. And I didn't know this existed. So just by coming on to Libby and doing some quick searches and kind of just taking a few minutes, I was able to find something that I became really excited about. And I'm going to share this book with you in just a minute. So once we've borrowed a book, we can go ahead and look at our shelf. So at the bottom here, we click on shelf, and I can see Bilbo's Last Song there waiting to be read. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to start to read. This is by J.R.R. Tolkien, Bilbo's Last Song, illustrated by Pauline Baines. Day is ended, dim my eyes, but journey long before me lies. Farewell, friends, I hear the call, the ships beside the stony wall. Foam is white and waves are gray, beyond the sunset leads my way. Foam is salt, the wind is free, I hear the rising of the sea. Farewell, friends, the sails are set. The wind is east, the morning's fret. Shadows long before me lie beneath the ever bending sky. But islands lie behind the sun that I shall raise ere all is done. Lands that are to the west, where night is quiet and sleep is rest. Guided by the lonely star, beyond the utmost harbor bar, I'll find the havens fair and free, and beaches of starlit sea. Ship, my ship! I seek the west in fields and mountains ever blessed. Farewell to Middle Earth at last. I see the star above your mast. So that was just a quick read aloud of that particular book. Not super long, but just a really fantastic poem. And I love that I found it just by exploring and looking for poetry books. It goes on about the pictures, which I think were fantastic, and really explains a lot of detail about them. So if you feel like this is something you would like to read, I am going to go ahead, manage my loan, and return it early. So this is now available for you to borrow and check out. Okay, so a quick recap of our library lesson for today. First, we took a quick tour of jackperletsky.com, which I absolutely love, one of my favorite poetry sites. Then we went on to Hoopla and Libby and did quick searches, or did a quick tour of how to do searches and a reminder of using those apps for different kinds of poetry books that you can be reading for the next couple days as National Poetry Month comes to a close. Then, of course, we went on to my sharing of my read aloud. Absolutely love that book. I might need to buy a copy of that for myself just to have on my shelves. Okay, thanks very much and have a great weekend.